Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when this finds you. Just want to remind you guys that the Black Culture and Behavior book, But Hey, What Do I Know, is available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and my personal website, buthheywhatdoiknow.com. I just received an email from my publisher that the book has actually been on the market for a year now. And so it's not brand new anymore, but it's still brand new if you haven't read it. And once you do get your copy, especially if you buy it off Amazon, I ask that you leave a review on Amazon, be it positive or negative, and hopefully it'll be positive. I will tell you it's not going to be like anything you've ever read. And it's been a few months since my last video. I believe around early July was when my last video was placed on this channel. And just want to let you guys know, less than a month later, I was in the hospital. And I was in the hospital parts of August, parts of September, and parts of October. And so my focus wasn't really on creating any content. My focus was on getting better. And still in recovery mode. I'm home now, but it's been a long journey trying to recover and heal. But that's just a detour, it's just a roadblock. And so, not going to belabor the point on that. Just want to let you guys know, especially those of you that have been subscribers for quite some time, I know it's unusual not to get a video released at least once a month. But today I want to talk about Judas Iscariot. You know, the guy that betrayed Christ. Because in our communities, in our black communities, we have a Judas spirit. You know, look at all of the black men who say that they speak or represent us, but they actually keep us as victims. Anytime one of us tells us to come out of that victimhood, these Judases publicly denounce them. And I mean, you don't have to agree with everything that a guy says. I mean, look at when Bill Cosby and Alan Poussaint wrote that book years ago, Come On People, they were telling us we need to change our mentality. And you know, of course, Bill Cosby was going around the country promoting that ideology as well. And we used to love, you know, Cliff Huxtable as long as he was Cliff Huxtable. But when Cliff Huxtable started talking about accountability, character, and integrity, all of a sudden we got upset. And I'm not talking about the issues that he's dealing with now. I'm talking about when he was calling us to the carpet on our behavior as a people. And so we denounce them, somebody like that, when they come out and tell us, hey, you're not a victim. Come on out of that mindset. And just as Christ was betrayed for 30 pieces of silver, these so-called misleaders, I don't call them black leaders, because I have a question for you. Why are we the only group of people in this country that has to have leaders speak for us? So I call them black misleaders because they mislead us all the time. But just as Judas was paid by others to betray Christ, these people that say they represent you are also paid by their masters to betray the black race and keep us down, keep us in bondage, keep us in poverty, keep us in these dilapidated neighborhoods and things like that. They don't mean us any well. And I mean, you can go back and look at everything that's supposed to be black was not started by a black, was not financed by a black, and is not controlled by a black. And I'm going to prove that to you. Take your Black Lives Matter movement. That's the most recent movement we've had. Find out who financed it. So the people that are financed it are the ones that's controlling it. Find out about who financed and backed the civil rights movement. Because even though King and Rustin and Young and all them were the faces, they weren't controlling it. Go find out who financed and started your National Urban League and your NAACP, because those weren't started by black people or financed by black people either. And see, the people that we keep thinking are our enemies are actually not our enemies. They're actually in the same boat with us, but the people that's controlling all of the media and everything that goes around it make it look like they're our enemies. They share the same skin color, just to give you an example, but it's not the same people. Find out who the serpent seed is. And look at Revelation 2:9, Revelation 3:9, John 8, verses 39 through 44, and give you an idea. But the difference with Judas and our black misleaders is Judas felt so bad about what he had done to Christ that even though he got paid, he went out and hung himself. He killed himself. Our black leaders, misleaders, don't go out and try to hang themselves because they like the money. And, the Bible says money, the love of money, is the root of all evil. Judas was a treasurer. Christ let him control the money. Christ had so much money, he knew Judas was stealing from him, but he didn't even know how much he had stolen. But no difference from Judas and these black misleaders. They're in love with money. And they'll tell you, they make it financially, and they give you all the reasons why you're being held back. Come on, folks, think about that. They made it in education, academia, and their career. But they're the ones that keep telling you why you can't make it. And so they stay around to keep getting their 30 pieces of silver every year, when the new year starts. So they're going to stay around and get their 30 pieces of silver. And Judas was actually the one that was actually put in the midst to keep tabs on Christ, just like black misleaders. I'm not one to sit here and, put everybody else down. I get people tell me all the time when I talk about black on black crime, I talk about the issues in the black community, and other black folks always want to tell me like they're saying something profound. Well, whatever community you're in, they kill each other. Well, that's the other community's deal. That's not our deal. We need to get our house in order. That's the problem. We want our house burning, but we want to look across the street at the neighbor's house and wondering what they having for dinner. It doesn't matter what's going on in our neighbor's house. Our house is on fire. And so, you look at, like, wherever you live, I don't care where you live in this country, you're going to have segregated sections. These communities, these people are part of the largest body of society, but they still have their segregated sections. Here in Houston, we have an area called Chinatown. And Chinatown is exactly what I said it is. Chinatown. And you can go over there, you can spend your money with them. They'll smile in your face while they take your money. But at no point in your life, or your kids' life, or even before in your parents' life, will your parents, will a black person or any other person ever be allowed to go open a business in their communities. Because it doesn't work that way. But somehow as black people, we let everybody else come into our community, and we feed them our resources. We improve their communities, because at the end of the day, they take all that money back home into their community, and we deplete our community. We destroy our communities because no resources are circulating in our community. And I don't care what culture, what race it is, we're still missing the boat on that. And not to let them off the hook, the black church is no different than these foreign-owned establishments in our communities. Most of your pastors don't even live in the neighborhood of the churches they pastor. But at the end of the day, when that collection is taken up, They'll sit there and they'll pack it up and they'll take it to a white-owned bank or a foreign-owned bank, and the black community is still losing. Look at the areas around the church. They haven't done any improvements around the church area. You know, they're 3 times a year they'll give to the needy so it makes them look good. You know, back to school, Thanksgiving and Christmas. They'll always talk about tithing. And tithing is unbiblical according to the New Testament, and even in the Old Testament, it was only biblical for Israel. It wasn't biblical for anybody else. And when I say for Israel, only for the people that produce crops and animals, for farmers. So it wasn't even for the regular society, the rest of society. It was for the agriculturists. And so a lot of our black pastors, we could call them Judas. Now, I said a lot of them, a great majority of them, you could call them Judas. You know, we sit here and we listen to these guys talk about Christ, Paul. But they don't mirror Paul and Christ's teachings at all. I mean, chapter 8 in my book, but hey, what do I know, goes into a little bit more depth and detail on that. But they talk about we're supposed to honor Christ. We're supposed to be honoring Christ. We're supposed to be honoring Christ. So why do we have pastor and wife anniversary services? Now we're honoring the pastor and his wife. We're not honoring Christ when we do that. But I'm just talking about Judases in our midst. We have a lot of Judases in our midst. And you know, I had one guy tell me one time that Paul's words were not Christ's words. And so if you go over there to Acts, I believe 9 and 15, Christ is telling Ananias, you know, this is what Ananias saw in a vision. You know, when you, or a dream or whatever you want to call it. When you go knock on this door, ask for Saul, and Saul will later become Paul. And if you understand the New Testament, Paul wrote the majority of your New Testament. And Jesus told Ananias in that vision, in that dream, Paul represents me. So if Paul said it, that means it came from the highest authority. But these Judases, we have them all in our midst. You know, our black congressmen, our black senators, our black politicians, they don't mean us any well. They are Judas. The spirit of Judas is destroying and has destroyed our black communities. And a lot of these black people want to say they pro-black. And the first thing they do when they get a little money is they move as far away from the black people that they say they love as fast as they can. I remember Stokely Carmichael, you know, one of the Black Panthers. He gave a speech titled "What We Want." And Stokely Carmichael said, black folks that claim to be black, as soon as they get enough money, they get in their car and drive as fast as they can to get away from the black people. Now that's Stokely Carmichael. And I mean, when we think about Judas, and you know, a lot of us know the rapper Rick Ross, you know, big man, little man, depending on what surgery he done had, whatever. But Rick Ross just took his name from a drug dealer named Freeway Rick Ross, or Ricky Ross. And Freeway Ricky Ross was given dope by the CIA to sell to black people. Is that not a Judas? A lot of rappers today, they get their 30 pieces of silver from the music industry to lead our black youth to damage and destruction, degrade our women. And I mean, I grew up in an era when you had Curtis Blow, Sugar Hill Gang, Run DMC, the Fat Boys, you know, good clean rap. You know, Public Enemy came along and started educating us. BDP with KRS-One came along and started educating us. They were making, you know, the East Coast made self-destruction, telling us, hey, let's get off destroying each other. Then you had the West Coast came out, we're all in the same game because they were tired of us destroying each other. And all of a sudden the music industry disbanded all of that stuff. You know, Professor Griff got in trouble for calling out a group of people for who they really were. And so that was the downfall of Public Enemy. And so BDP broke up and Miss Melody is passed on and all of this stuff. But rap was totally different back then. But today's rappers they can be called Judas. And the Judas spirit and the actual Judases need to be removed from our midst and our thought process. Betrayal normally takes place with someone we're close to, but it also can take place from those we feel a personal connection to, even though we've never met them. A lot of times it's your athletes and your politicians. You feel a personal connection to, and you don't realize that they're betraying you, because even our athletes and our politicians are instructed not to help you. And you got to do your own research on that. I'm not going to get into all that. Do your own research. But I know most of you won't. And that's a sad thing, that we just take everything as it is. In Psalms 83:4, it said the objective was to destroy us as a people and destroy our name so we don't even remember who we are. Is that not the Judas spirit? And Psalms of the New Testament, so the Judas spirit was already there long before then. And so we can tell somebody that they're being betrayed, and when we do, we're going to be viewed as the enemy. It's like I remember one guy I played ball with in high school. He had married a young lady I grew up with as well. We all grew up in the same area, and he married, and afterwards, when they got divorced, he asked me why I didn't tell him she was crazy. And I'm like, what you talking about? That ain't my business. Because if I'd have told him she was crazy, and he was going to go tell her, Byron said you crazy. So I don't get into people's personal relationships. They got to find out on their own, and it's just what I'm telling you. You're going to have to go find out on your own what's going on. And so, you know that mate is running around. You know that mate is crazy. You know they're in the mind. You know that mate is selfish. Just to name a few incidences. But if you tell them, they're gonna get upset with you. And if you don't tell them, they're gonna ask you why you didn't tell them, and they're still gonna get upset with you. Either way, it's your fault.